The night was cold, far colder than any night Ada had ever felt since she came to Lagos. The sky opened its mouth wide, pouring rain without mercy, beating the zinc roof of the Okoye mansion like someone banging a drum in anger. The wind pushed itself through the street, lifting plastic bottles, shaking leaves, and whistling against the wall. But none of this was as cold as what Ada felt inside her chest. She sat curled beside the big iron gate, her thin mat barely saving her from the wet ground. The rain had soaked one side of it earlier, and she had pushed it close to the wall, trying to save the dry part. Her clothes were already wet. Her hair clung to her forehead. She shivered violently, hugging her knees, wishing she could disappear into her own body. Her eyes were red, not from the rain, but from the shame she carried every night. Inside the mansion, laughter and television sound floated through the windows. They were watching a late-night show. The warm yellow lights made the house look peaceful and rich. But outside, Ada was fighting the cold, fighting her tears, fighting the voice in her head that asked her the same question over and over. Why me? She had no answer. Suddenly the gate opened with a loud, painful creak, and Madame Okoye marched out like a storm in human form. Her wrapper was tied carelessly on her chest, and her eyes were full of anger for reasons Ada never understood. The woman's voice rose immediately. You again? You are sleeping? Sleeping. You don't have respect. You don't have fear, she shouted. Ada jumped up, her heart racing. I washed the plates, Ma. I cleaned the kitchen, Ma, she said quickly, her voice shaking. So, if you wash plates, does that give you right to sleep? Idiot. Do you think this is your father's house? You, a mere maid, you want to close your eyes at this hour? Ada swallowed. She had heard this insult so many times that her heart no longer reacted. She simply lowered her head and said nothing. Madame Okoye pushed her backward, forcing her to stumble. Lie down. Here. This is where you sleep. Don't let me come out and catch you sitting like a human being. Ada lowered herself back onto mat, her cheeks burning with humiliation. The rainwater had already crawled toward her mat, and now her skirt absorbed the cold wetness. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wiped them quickly because even crying annoyed her madam. Some neighbors peeked from their windows. Lagos gossip never sleeps. Mama Chinyere whispered loudly, Ha! This is wickedness. But her husband quickly dragged her inside. Nobody wanted trouble with the Okoye family. Nobody wanted to defend Ada. Nobody wanted to say she deserved better. The girl was alone. The street became quiet again. Ada pulled her knees closer to her chest. She whispered a prayer through chattering teeth. God, just help me survive this night. It was then she heard the hum of an engine. A black SUV approached slowly from the far end of the street. The headlights cut through the darkness like two white swords. The car was big, sleek, expensive, the kind of vehicle that made everyone assume the owner was important. Ada didn't expect the car to stop, but it did, right in front of her. Her breath froze. The tinted window rolled down a little, and she saw a pair of eyes watching her. The man didn't speak immediately. His gaze studied her mat, her wet clothes, her shaking hands, and the gate behind her. Ada lowered her head quickly. She didn't want trouble. She didn't want anyone to pity her. The man finally spoke. His voice was deep and calm. You're sleeping here? Ada said nothing. He repeated the question, softer this time. Are you sleeping out here? Ada finally nodded. She didn't raise her head. She didn't want him to see her tears. The man's jaw tightened, and even though Ada didn't look at him, she felt something shift in the air. The SUV window rolled up again, and the car drove slowly forward before parking a short distance away. Ada exhaled shakily. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know he was still watching her through the mirror. Minutes passed. The rain grew heavier, beating her mat until she had no choice but to curl tighter into herself. She whispered to God again, Don't let me break. Don't let me die like this. She didn't know the man in the SUV was listening to her small sniffles, watching her wipe her tears with a trembling hand. His heart tightened with anger, not at her, but at the injustice he sensed without needing explanation. Hours later, around 2 a.m., Ada heard the sound of the SUV engine again. She lifted her head weakly. The car had turned around and returned, stopping at the same spot as before. This time the man rolled down the window a little more. "Come closer," he said. Ada hesitated. "My madam doesn't like me talking to anybody," she whispered. The man frowned slightly. "I asked you a simple question. Come." Ada stepped closer, her body shaking from cold. The rain had turned her clothes into a second layer of ice. The man studied her face properly for the first time. She had tired eyes, but kind ones. Her cheek was swollen slightly, probably from a slap. Her arms were skinny, her feet bare. She looked like someone who had been surviving, not living. "Why are you sleeping here?" he asked. Ada looked away. Because Madam said I don't deserve to sleep inside." "Why?" he asked again. "I don't know," she whispered. "I try my best. But she says I'm too slow, too dull, too useless." The man inhaled slowly, controlled. Ada did not know him, but she could feel that he was angry, not at her, but for her. She had never seen that kind of anger before. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ada," she said softly. "I see," he murmured. He didn't say much after that. He simply told her, "Go back to sleep. We will talk soon." Ada nodded quickly and stepped back. She laid down again on her mat. The man watched her for a few more seconds, then slowly drove away. But he didn't forget her face. He didn't forget the cold mat. He didn't forget the way she tried to hide her tears. Ada did not know he would return. She did not know he had already taken her matter into his heart. She did not know destiny had opened its door that night. She thought it was just another hard night. She didn't know it was the beginning of her transformation. She lay there quietly, thinking about her life before Lagos, the life she lost. Her father's business had collapsed because his partner betrayed him. Their money disappeared. Her mother died from heartbreak and stress. Ada was left alone, forced to come to Lagos to work as a maid. She accepted anything because she had nowhere else to go. But even in all her suffering, she had never stopped praying, never stopped hoping. "God will remember me one day," she always whispered. She didn't know that the one day had just arrived in the form of a stranger with a deep voice and kind eyes. As the rain finally began to slow, Ada lay quietly, hugging herself, thinking the night was ending the same way it always ended, with cold pain and shame. But the black SUV was already a shadow in her destiny, circling her story. The man in that SUV, Mr. Keo the Degbite, was not the type who ignored things that troubled his mind. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't forget the image of the girl shivering beside the gate like an abandoned animal. Something in him refused to let it go. Tomorrow, he would return. Tomorrow, he would witness something that would force him to step in. Tomorrow, Ada's life would begin to change forever. But for now, the night held its silence, and Ada held her tears, unaware that this was the last night she would ever sleep outside. Before sleep carried her away, she whispered one more prayer into the cold air. "God, please let something define me." And far down the street, the man who heard her pain whispered to himself in his car, "I will find out who she is." A prayer sent, a prayer answered. Two paths rising quietly toward each other. Destiny already sitting in the center, waiting. Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly and wish you could help? What would you have done if you were in Ada's shoes? Comment below. Morning came slowly, creeping into the sky like someone afraid to disturb the world. Ada woke up before the sun fully rose, her body stiff from the cold night, her eyes swollen, her bones aching like she slept on nails. She stretched her legs gently, wincing as pain shot through her waist. She rubbed her arms, blew warm air on her hands, and stood up quietly. She folded her mat quickly before Madam would come out and shout that she was slow. Her life was like that. Rush, fear, silence, obedience. She pushed the gate gently and slipped inside the compound. The compound was already bright with security lights that had been on all night. The flowers in the corner still held raindrops. The cars were shining from the heavy rain wash. Everything looked clean, but she felt dirty. That was how her life looked. She worked in a beautiful house, but lived in suffering. Before she could fully reach the backyard, Madame Okoye's voice pierced the air like a knife. "You, Ada, come here now." Ada froze immediately. She turned slowly and walked toward the veranda. Madam stood there with hands on her waist, anger written all over her face like someone painted it there permanently. So you are now formally important? You didn't wake me up to greet me? I'm sorry, Ma, Ada whispered. I didn't want to disturb you. Madam hissed loudly. You can never disturb me. You don't have that privilege. Now go and warm the food from yesterday, and mop the entire house, and wash all the bathrooms. I want everything shining like heaven. Yes, Ma, Ada said and rushed off. As she worked, she felt her lower back screaming from bending all night on a cold mat. But she didn't stop. She swept, washed, scrubbed, wiped, rinsed. She washed clothes. She cleaned the children's rooms. She picked up dirty socks. She arranged shoes. She worked without stopping for a single second. Her sweat mixed with the morning heat, dripping down her face, but she didn't complain. She didn't dare. By 8 a.m., she had not eaten anything. Her stomach growled small like a hungry puppy, but she ignored it. She continued working. When she stepped outside to throw away the trash, she paused. Something pulled her attention. A black SUV was parked calmly under the tree outside the mansion. The same SUV from last night. Her heart jumped and trembled. She looked around quickly, then back at the car. The tinted glass made it hard to see inside, but she felt someone watching her. She didn't know why. She didn't know what it meant. She quickly dropped the trash and ran inside. Her mind replayed the moment from last night, the man's voice, his eyes, the way he asked, "Why are you sleeping here?" She didn't know who he was, but there was something different in the way he spoke. He wasn't mocking. He wasn't pitying. He was concerned. But Ada had learned never to expect good things from people. People always disappointed her. People always turned her kindness into weakness. She told herself not to think too much. It was probably just a coincidence. But fate was not done with her. Around noon, Madam returned from a quick meeting she claimed was very important. She stood at the gate shouting, "Ada! Ada!" Ada dropped the mop and ran downstairs. Madam opened the gate roughly and pointed outside. "Look at your useless life. You see the man in that SUV? Do you know him?" Ada's heart raced. She shook her head quickly. "No, Ma, I don't know him." "Are you sure?" Madam shouted again. "You didn't greet him? You didn't talk to him?" Ada's lips trembled. She remembered the man speaking to her last night, but she knew if she mentioned it, Madam would beat her until she bled. "No, Ma," she whispered. Madam hissed loudly. "Good, because if I ever hear that you are talking to men on this street, I will break that your long neck." Ada bowed her head, her voice shaking. "Yes, Ma." Madam marched inside, still angry. Ada watched her disappear into the house. When she turned her head, slightly, the SUV window rolled down a little. She saw the man again. He was watching everything. Their eyes met, and Ada quickly looked away, her heart beating wildly. The man lifted the window again and drove off slowly, disappearing down the street. Ada stood there, frozen. She didn't understand what was happening. She didn't understand why a rich man would be interested in someone like her. She didn't understand why he returned. She didn't understand why he was watching. Later in the evening, something happened that changed everything. Ada was washing plates in the kitchen when she heard a loud bang from the sitting room. She rushed out quickly. Madam was standing over her youngest son, pointing at a broken flower vase. "You, this girl," Madam shouted. "Come here." Ada walked forward shakily. "Did you break this?" "No, Ma," Ada said quietly. "I was in the kitchen." "So who broke it?" "The wind." Madam screamed. "Are you calling me a liar?" Ada froze. The little boy had broken the vase while playing football inside the house, but the boy was scared to confess. Madam grabbed Ada by the wrist. "You must be mad. Today I will teach you a lesson." She raised her hand to slap Ada, and at that exact moment, a voice spoke from the doorway. "Don't you dare." Everyone froze. Ada turned slowly. The man from the black SUV stood at the door, tall, confident, handsome, angry. Madame Okoye's mouth dropped open. "KKO'd?" Sir, what are you doing here? Ko ignored her completely. His eyes locked on Ada, on the fear in her face, on the bruise near her neck, on her trembling fingers, on the pain she tried so hard to hide. His jaw tightened. Then he looked at Madam. I warned you last night, he said quietly, dangerously calmly. If I see you mistreat this girl again, you will answer to me. Madam suddenly changed her voice to sweet honey. Sir, it's not what you think. Ko cut her off with sharp glare. I don't think. I saw. Ada's heart pounded so loud she could hear it. She didn't understand what was happening. She didn't know who he really was. She didn't know why he cared. Ko stepped closer to her. Ada, pack your things. Ada blinked. Sir, you're leaving this house today. Madam gasped loudly. Leave? To where? Ko didn't turn to her. To somewhere she will be treated like a human being. Ada's legs became weak. Madam screamed, You cannot take my maid. Ko slowly turned and gave her a cold smile. Your maid? You mean the girl you let sleep outside in the rain? Madam's eyes widened. Ko wasn't finished. You will pay her all her unpaid salaries. Every kobo. Today. Madam's husband appeared from upstairs, panicking. And Mr. Ko, sir, please. Ko pointed at Ada. She sleeps outside like a dog. You hold her salary for 8 months. You threaten her. You beat her. And you think you'll get away with it? His voice thundered through the room. You must think I'm stupid. Ada covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She didn't know where this man came from. She didn't know why he had chosen her. But for the first time in years, someone was fighting for her, and it felt unreal. Madam collapsed to her knees. Please, sir, don't disgrace us. I'm not here for you, Ko said. I'm here for her. He looked at Ada again. Go and pack your things. Ada hesitated, shaking. Sir, I don't have anywhere to go. Ko softened only for her. You'll stay somewhere safe. Trust me. Ada had never trusted anyone before, but something in his eyes made her feel like she could. She nodded slowly. She walked to her small corner behind the kitchen where she kept her nylon bag. She folded her clothes, few old skirts, 3 tops, 1 wrapper, and a toothbrush. She placed her Bible on top. As she stepped out, she saw Madam staring at the floor, defeated. She saw the neighbors watching from outside the gate, shocked at the drama. She saw Madam's children whispering. But most importantly, she saw Mr. Ko waiting for her at the gate. He opened the SUV door. Get in, he said softly. Ada held her nylon bag tightly and stepped inside the luxurious car. The seat felt too soft, too comfortable, too clean. She felt like she didn't belong there. But the door closed behind her, and her old life closed with it. As they drove away slowly, Ada looked back at the mansion, her prison for years. She didn't know what was waiting for her ahead. She didn't know who Ko truly was. She didn't know why he chose to help her. But she knew one thing. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't sleeping outside tonight. The drive away from the Okoye house felt unreal for Ada. She sat at the edge of the soft leather seat, holding her small nylon bag tightly against her chest, as if someone wanted to snatch it away. Her heart was beating fast, her palms sweaty, her mind confused. Everything she had known for years, every insult, every beating, every humiliation, was behind her now. But she didn't know if she was safe. She didn't know if this new chapter was a blessing or another trouble waiting for her. She kept her head bowed, afraid to look around the car, afraid to ask questions, afraid to breathe too loudly. She didn't belong in a car like this. The AC was cold and gentle, not harsh like the rain she slept with last night. The scent inside the SUV was fresh and clean, nothing like the smell of detergent and burnt food that always followed her in Madam's house. Every second felt strange. Ko glanced at her from time to time, but he didn't speak immediately. He didn't want to frighten her more than she already was. He could see her shaking slightly, holding herself like a bird that expected the hunter's arrow at any moment. Her silence spoke more than words could. Minutes passed. The car moved smoothly down the road, the city waking slowly around them. Ada finally forced herself to whisper, Sir, where are we going? The question trembled out of her mouth, like it was afraid of being born. Kaode spoke gently. Somewhere safe, Ada. Her fingers tightened around her nylon bag. She nodded, though she didn't fully understand. They drove through areas she had never seen before. Beautiful houses with tall palm trees, clean streets, big gates, flowers arranged like something from magazines. She kept looking through the window with small stolen glances. It felt like another world. When the car stopped at a quiet compound with high brown walls and a big black gate, Ada's breath caught. The gate opened automatically. The compound was peaceful, spacious, and had a small garden with yellow flowers on each side. She had never seen anything like it in close view. Kaode stepped out. Ada hesitated. She wasn't sure she was allowed to step on the clean, neat floor without dirtying it. She wasn't sure if she was supposed to wait for permission. Kaode came around to her side and opened the door. "You can come down," he said softly. Ada stepped out gently, placing her feet carefully like the floor would reject her. She clutched her bag tightly again. Her eyes scanned everything with fear, confusion, and disbelief. A middle-aged woman came out from the house. She wore a simple wrapper and blouse, her hair tied in a bun. Her face was warm and welcoming. She smiled immediately when she saw Ada. "Ah, welcome, the woman said with a gentle tone. "My name is Mama Anom. Don't fear." Ada swallowed. She didn't know how to respond. Kaode simply said, "Mama Anom, this is Ada. She will stay here for a while until things settle." The woman nodded. She looked at Ada with kind eyes, not with disgust or irritation like Madame Okoye. "Come, my daughter, let me show you where you will sleep." Sleep, a real place to sleep. The words felt like a miracle. Ada followed Mama Anom slowly. Her legs were shaking. Inside the small but beautiful house, the living room was tidy, smelling of lavender. The walls were painted cream, the sofas simple but neat. They walked down a short hallway. The woman opened a door to a small guest room. The bed was neatly made. The sheets were white. The pillow was soft. A small fan stood in the corner. The window let in peaceful morning light. "This is your room," Mama Anom said. Ada stared at the bed, unable to speak. She felt her throat close up. She touched the sheet gently with trembling fingers, as if she expected it to disappear the moment she blinked. She stayed silent for many seconds. Then she burst into tears, quiet, weak, shaking tears that came from years of hidden pain. She covered her mouth quickly to stop the sound. She didn't want to disturb anyone. Mama Anom placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, my daughter. Cry if you want to cry. You are safe here." Safe. That word broke Ada even more. She had not heard it in years. Meanwhile, Kaode stood quietly near the door, watching her. He didn't step inside. He didn't want her to feel uncomfortable. But seeing her cry pulled at something deep in his chest, a protective pull he couldn't explain. He finally spoke. "Ada, rest. You need it. Eat. Take a shower. You are not going back to that house." Ada wiped her tears fast. "Sir, thank you, sir. I don't know why you are helping me." "You don't need to know now," he said calmly. "Just heal first." He turned to leave, but Ada called softly, "Sir?" He paused. "Please, thank you," she whispered again, bowing her head. Kaode nodded once and left the room. When the door closed, Ada sat on the bed slowly. She pressed her palm into the mattress. It felt soft, warm, and safe. She had forgotten what a real bed felt like. She had been sleeping on cold concrete for so long that softness felt unreal. She lay down gently, her tears soaking the pillow. But this time her tears were not from pain. They were from relief. After a long rest, Ada woke up to the sound of soft knocking. "Ada," Mama Anom called. "Food is ready. Come and eat." Ada stood up slowly. Her stomach growled loudly. She hadn't eaten since the previous afternoon. She walked out shyly, afraid of being judged, afraid of being in a place she did not belong. On the dining table was a simple meal, rice and stew, with one boiled egg. But to Ada, it looked like a feast. She sat down slowly, whispering, "Thank you, Ma." "Eat," the woman said with a smile. You need strength. Ada took the first spoon. The food entered her body like medicine. Warm, comforting, healing. She ate slowly at first, then faster when she couldn't hold back her hunger anymore. Mama Anum watched her with pity, shaking her head gently. "How can people be so wicked?" she muttered under her breath. When Ada finished eating, she helped wash the plate, insisting she must do it. She wasn't used to being allowed to rest. She wasn't used to kindness. Later that afternoon, Ada stepped outside the house quietly. She saw Keod standing beside his SUV, speaking on the phone. He looked serious, focused. Ada didn't want to disturb him, so she moved backward. But he noticed her and ended the call. "You look better," he said, observing her face. Ada nodded. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. We need to talk," he said. Her heart raced. "Sir, did I do something wrong?" "No," he answered. "Not at all." He leaned slightly against the car, arms crossed. "Ada, how long have you been working for them?" 3 years, sir." 3 years? His eyebrows shot up in shock. "And they made you sleep outside all this time?" "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "They said I didn't deserve to sleep inside." "What about your salary?" "They only paid the first 5 months, sir. After that, every time I ask, they beat me or shout that I'm ungrateful." Keod exhaled slowly, fighting the anger rising inside him. "Ada, listen carefully. What they did to you is wickedness. It is evil. No human deserves that." Ada lowered her head. "I thought maybe it's my fate, sir." Keod shook his head firmly. "No, that is not your fate. They abused you because you had no one to stand for you." Ada looked up at him for the first time, not as a rich stranger, but as someone who saw her pain clearly. He asked gently, "Do you have any family?" Ada's eyes softened. "My parents are dead, sir." Keod nodded slowly. "You are alone?" "Yes, sir." He paused, watching her small, tired face. Then he said something that froze her heart. "You are not alone anymore." Ada blinked, confused. "Sir, you are under my protection now," he said, "and I will make sure the people who hurt you pay for it." Ada felt the world stop moving for a moment. Her throat tightened. Her eyes softened again with fresh tears she tried to hide. "Why, sir?" she whispered. Keod looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because kindness should never suffer," he said softly, "and you have suffered enough." Ada's knees almost gave way. She held her breath as his words sank deep into her heart. This man was not like others. He didn't want anything from her. He wasn't using her. He wasn't insulting her. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't raising his hand. He was helping her. Something she had not experienced in years. And right there, right in that peaceful compound, Ada felt the first spark of hope she had known in a long time. She didn't know it yet, but her life had already changed. She didn't know that fate was preparing to tie her destiny with this man's destiny. She didn't know that the one who saved her today would become the man who transformed her tomorrow. She only knew one thing. For the first time, someone saw her worth. And that was enough to make her believe that maybe tomorrow could finally be better than yesterday. Days passed slowly, but they passed beautifully, beautiful in a way Ada had never experienced before. Every morning she woke up on a real bed, not a cold floor. Every morning she opened her eyes to calm sunlight, not the slap of an angry madam shouting that she was late. She ate real food, not leftover bones and scraps thrown on a plate. For the first time in her life, Ada felt alive. She felt human. She spent most of her days helping Mama Anum with small chores, washing plates, sweeping, helping in the kitchen. But even when she worked, she did it with a light heart because nobody insulted her. Nobody screamed at her. Nobody beat her or called her useless. The woman even told her to rest sometimes, something Ada wasn't used to. Every afternoon, she saw Keod leaving the compound or returning in his SUV. He would greet her with a small nod. Ada would lower her head shyly and respond softly, "Good afternoon, sir." She didn't talk much. She didn't know how to behave around a man like him. He was tall, confident, well-dressed, everything opposite of her world. She didn't want to offend him or disturb him, but Keod paid attention to everything. He noticed how she never finished her food, as if she feared it would finish too fast. He noticed how she washed her plate immediately after eating, afraid of inconvenience. He noticed how she slept curled up at the edge of the bed, as if she still expected someone to shout at her for taking too much space. He noticed how she jumped in fear whenever someone raised their voice nearby. He noticed, and it hurt him. One afternoon, he returned earlier than usual. He found Ada sweeping the compound quietly. She saw him and tried to move aside quickly. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, bowing her head. He stepped closer. "Ada." She paused. "Yes, sir." "You don't always have to move away when I'm walking." She blinked, confused. "Sorry, sir." "Don't apologize," he said gently. "I'm not angry." She nodded quickly, uneasy. "Yes, sir." "Ada," he called again. She looked up slowly. "You're safe here," he said calmly, firmly, like a promise. Ada's eyes softened. She nodded slowly, then looked down again. She didn't know why his words always reached her heart so deeply, but they did. That evening, something happened that neither of them expected. Keod received a call. He stepped outside to answer it. His voice was calm at first, then grew sharper, firmer, colder. "You stole her salary? All 8 months?" "No, I'm listening." "Continue lying." Ada heard his voice and froze. She stood in the hallway, gripping the edge of the door frame as she listened. "You also refused to pay her because she asked for her rights." "I see. And now you want to explain?" His voice dropped dangerously. "Good. Explain it to the police I sent to your office." Ada gasped quietly. Her hand flew to her chest. "Police? Office? Who?" She stepped back slowly. Keod was fighting for her. Again, she wiped a tear that escaped her eye. She couldn't believe it. She had never asked him for help. She didn't even understand him. Yet he kept fighting battles she couldn't fight alone. The next day, everything changed. Keod called her to sit outside under the small shade near the garden. She sat carefully, like someone afraid of making the chair dirty. "Ada, I want to ask you something," he said quietly. "Please be honest." She nodded nervously. "Before you became a maid, what did you want to be?" Ada's heart dropped. Nobody had asked her that question since her parents died. She didn't know how to answer. She stared at her fingers. I used to help my mother sell bread," she said softly. "I didn't think much about the future, but I liked school. I wanted to finish, sir." Keod leaned back. "What class were you when you stopped?" "SS2, sir," she whispered. "I dropped out when my father fell sick." He nodded slowly. "Do you want to finish your education?" Ada blinked hard. Her throat burned. She shook her head quickly. "No, sir, I can't. I'm too old. I'm not smart anymore. And school is for children from good homes. Sir, not someone like me." Keod didn't like that answer. "Ada," he said softly, "you're not too old. You're not useless. You just lived in the wrong hands." Her eyes filled again. She looked away. Keod continued. "If you want, I can help you finish school, or learn a skill, or start a business. Your life doesn't have to end in suffering." Ada covered her mouth with her hand. Tears streamed down her face, silently. "Why are you helping me, sir?" she whispered. "I don't have anything to give you." Keod paused, watching her carefully. "I'm helping you because I want to, because you deserve a chance at life, because you've suffered enough, because you're a good person and the world needs more people like you." Ada cried harder. She wasn't used to kindness. It confused her. It scared her. It softened her in ways she wasn't ready for. Before she could speak, they heard loud banging on the gate. 3 times. Hard. Aggressive. Ada jumped up in fear. Sir, who is that?" "Stay behind me," Keod said immediately. He walked toward the gate and opened it. And standing outside were Madame Okoye and her husband. They looked angry, embarrassed, and desperate. Ada gasped and stepped backward. Madame pointed at Ada immediately. "Give me that girl. She is my maid. She must come back with us now." Keod raised one eyebrow. "Are you mad?" Madame hissed loudly. "You cannot keep her. She is our property. She belongs to us." Ada felt her stomach twist painfully. K.O.'s eyes darkened. She belongs to nobody. She is a human being, and she is not going anywhere with you. Madam's husband stepped forward. Mr. K.O., we can settle this peacefully. There is nothing to settle. K.O. cut in sharply. You abused her. You kept her salary. You made her sleep outside. You beat her. You treated her like trash. And now you want her back? For what? To kill her? Madam shouted. She is our maid. She signed no contract with you. K.O. stepped forward. His face hardened. And she signed no contract with you either. She is free. And even if she wasn't, I will not let you lay a finger on her again. Madam's voice rose higher. She must return today. K.O. laughed coldly. If you touch her again, I will make sure you and your husband spend the night behind bars. The couple fell silent. He leaned in slowly, voice low and dangerous. Leave. Now. Madam raised her chin stubbornly. We will not leave without her. K.O. looked at the security guard calmly. Open the gate for the police. The guard obeyed. 2 uniformed officers stepped in. Madam froze. K.O.'s voice was calm but sharp. These officers came to collect the money you stole from her. And if you want to add more problems to your life today, try to touch her again. Fear finally showed on Madam's face. She turned to her husband, whispering harshly, Let's go. The husband nodded quickly. The police instructed them to follow with their car. Madam glared at Ada one last time. Ada shifted behind K.O., holding herself terrified. The couple left. The gate closed. Ada burst into tears instantly. Sir, they will come back. They will hurt me. No, K.O. said firmly, turning to her. I'm here. They won't touch you again. Ever. Ada's tears fell uncontrollably. She held her chest, overwhelmed by relief and fear mixing inside her. K.O. took a slow breath, watching her. Ada, he said softly, you are not going back to them. Your life has started again. And this time, nobody will destroy it. Ada wiped her tears with shaking hands. She nodded weakly. And right there, something deep and quiet formed between them. Not love yet, but trust. The beginning of something powerful. Something gentle. Something destiny had been planning long, before Ada ever slept outside a gate. The days following the confrontation were quiet, almost too quiet. Ada felt like she was living inside a dream she was afraid to wake up from. She moved around the house gently, careful not to disturb anything. Careful not to show too much happiness, because she feared someone would suddenly appear and drag her back to the life she escaped. But each morning she woke up in the same soft bed. Each afternoon she heard the same peaceful silence. Each evening she saw the same gentle faces who treated her like she mattered. Slowly, her heart began to accept that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a dream. But even as she settled in, the storm outside her life was brewing. Madame Okoye and her husband were not sleeping. Shame had swallowed them whole. They complained to anyone who would listen, twisting the story, trying to turn themselves into victims. They told people Ada ran away, and K.O. stole their maid. They pretended they were saints. But nobody believed them completely, and their anger grew. While they plotted, Ada tried to rebuild herself in small pieces. Every morning she swept the compound, moving with quiet grace. She sang old songs under her breath, songs her mother used to sing when life was still gentle. Her voice was soft but beautiful, like wind passing through palm leaves. Sometimes K.O. heard her humming from inside the house, and the sound made him pause without knowing why. There was an innocence in her voice, a purity he had not heard in years. She washed plates, cleaned the walkway, helped water the flowers, and assisted Mama Anum in the kitchen. But no matter how much they told her to rest, she would still find something to clean. It was in her blood now. Hard work, fear of being idle, fear of being shouted at. She couldn't change that overnight. One afternoon, after finishing her chores, Ada sat quietly on the bench by the garden. The sun warmed her skin gently. She held her small Bible in her hand, flipping through it slowly. She wasn't reading. Her mind was too full. She just needed something to hold, something familiar. She didn't hear K.O. approach until he sat beside her. You like this place, he said. Ada jumped slightly. Sorry, sir. I didn't hear you. It's okay, he said. I didn't mean to startle you. She nodded shyly and looked down again. You can relax, you know, he said, studying her face. You don't always have to sit like someone expecting a slap. Ada swallowed. She didn't know how to explain that her body had learned fear the same way a child learns to walk. It had become part of her. I'm trying, sir, she whispered. I can see that, he replied gently. They sat in silence for a while. Then Keod spoke again. Ada, do you want to learn something? A skill? Anything. She hesitated. Sir, I don't know. What did you like before life became difficult? He asked. Ada thought for a long moment. Her eyes softened. I used to like sewing small things, she said. I used to sew my doll's clothes when I was younger. Keod smiled faintly. Do you want to learn tailoring? Ada blinked in surprise. She shook her head quickly. Sir, that's too big. I can't do that. I'm not even. Stop, he said gently. Don't call yourself small. If you want it, you can learn it. But, sir... No, but, he said, I believe in you. And I want you to believe in yourself, too. The words hit her heart, like sunlight breaking into a dark room. She looked away before tears betrayed her again. Thank you, sir, she whispered. Keod nodded. But even as he stood up to leave, he didn't know that outside the compound, someone was watching. A car was parked far down the street. Madame Okoye's cousin. He had been sent to monitor Ada and report back. He watched her sitting next to Keod, though nothing inappropriate was happening. Still, jealousy twisted everything in his mind. He snapped pictures quickly and sent them to Madame. By evening, the pictures had reached Madame's entire gossip group. Ada didn't know she had become the trending topic of people she had once served. While lies spread, Ada remained in her peaceful bubble. One evening, she was washing plates when Mama Anno entered the kitchen, holding something. Ada, she said, someone came earlier and dropped this envelope. They didn't wait. Ada wiped her hands and took it carefully. Her heart pounded. Wrong things usually came in envelopes. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter from her village. Her heart stopped. Her uncle, the man who took her father's last piece of land after her parents died, was writing to her. He wrote that he needed money, that he was sick, that she should remember her family, that she should send whatever she had since she was now living with a rich man. Ada felt weak. Nobody ever cared about her after her parents died. Nobody checked on her. Nobody called. Nobody came when she was suffering. But now that she was living in a safe place, suddenly they remembered her again. She folded the letter quietly. She didn't shed a tear. She didn't complain. She just kept washing the plates. Later that night, Keod found her sitting alone outside, staring at the sky. You're quiet today, he said. Ada nodded. Yes, sir. What happened? She shook her head. Nothing, sir. Ada, he said softly, I know when something is wrong. She held her breath. Then she gave him the letter with shaking hands. He read it slowly. His face hardened. Ada, he said quietly, these people didn't help you when you needed help. They abandoned you. They allowed you to suffer. They shouldn't come now because they think you are someone wealthy. Ada's eyes watered. But, sir, they are still family. Keod sighed deeply. Family should protect you, not use you. But Ada shook her head softly. Sir, I don't want to hate anyone. Keod stared at her quietly. Her heart was too pure for the world she lived in. He folded the letter and handed it back to her. We will talk about this later. You're not sending anything yet. She nodded, but she looked troubled. That night, after dinner, she sat outside to breathe. The moon was full bright, like someone hung a lamp in the sky. She wrapped her arms around herself as the soft Lagos night breeze brushed past her skin. She didn't hear the gate open. She didn't hear the footsteps. She only heard a voice she never wanted to hear again. So this is where you are. Ada froze. The spoon in her hand dropped. She turned slowly, and her heart almost stopped. Madame Okoye stood there at the gate, her face burning with anger, her eyes sharp like knives, her lips curled in disgust. Ada's entire body trembled. Emma Hauser said, Shut up. Madame snapped, stepping forward. Useless girl. So this is a life you wanted? Sleeping in a rich man's house? Eating good food? Wearing fresh clothes? You think you can run from me? Ada stepped back quickly. Ma, please. For 3 years I fed you, clothed you, sheltered you, Madam shouted. And now you're forming Madam here. Ada shook her head desperately. I never. You are shameless. Madam screamed. Tears rolled down Ada's cheeks. Before Madam could step closer, a strong, cold voice cut through the air. That's enough. Ada turned. Ko stood behind Madam, his expression darker than she had ever seen. He walked forward slowly, dangerously calm. Madam Okoye, he said quietly, you've made the biggest mistake coming here. Madam gasped and stepped back. Sir, please. You think you can walk into my compound and insult someone under my protection? Ada covered her mouth as tears fell harder. Ko took one more step forward. Touch her again or raise your voice at her again, and I swear by everything I own, your life will not remain the same. Madam shook her head, terrified. I didn't mean... Leave, he said. She hesitated. Now. Madam turned and ran out of the compound. The gate closed. Ada burst into loud, broken, uncontrollable tears. She fell to her knees. Ko rushed to her immediately. Ada, look at me. She shook her head, sobbing into her hands. I'm scared she will come back. She will hurt me. No, Ko said firmly, kneeling in front of her. She won't. I promise. Ada cried harder. Listen to me, he said gently, lifting her chin. You're safe. She will never harm you again. I am here. I'm not going anywhere. His voice was steady, warm, protective. Ada's tears slowed. Her breathing softened. And something unspoken passed between them. Something powerful. Something tender. Something destined. Ko stood slowly and helped her up. Come inside, he said softly. You're not alone anymore. And Ada followed him, closer to a future she didn't know was already waiting for her. The night after Madam Okoye stormed into the compound left Ada shaken in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Even though she was inside a safe house, even though the door was locked, even though Ko had warned Madam never to come near her again, fear still wrapped itself around her chest like a cold chain. Ada barely slept. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like danger. Every thought carried the same question. What if she comes back? By morning, she looked tired. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook as she held the cup of water Mama Anum gave her. Ada, my daughter, you didn't sleep? The woman said softly. Ada forced a smile. I tried, Ma. Mama Anum touched her shoulder gently. Stop thinking too much. You are safe. Ada nodded weakly, even though her heart didn't believe it yet. Later that morning, Ko returned from a meeting. He stepped into the compound and immediately noticed Ada standing near the steps, her hands clasped tightly together, her shoulders hunched slightly, not from cold, but from worry. Ada, he called. She looked up quickly. Good morning, sir. Did you sleep? She lowered her eyes. Not really, sir. Ko approached her slowly. Come, sit. They sat together on the bench near the small garden. The early sun was warm on their skin, but Ada still felt cold inside. Ada, he said gently, I want you to understand something. That woman has no power over you anymore. She cannot take you. She cannot touch you. She cannot harm you. Not as long as I am here. Ada swallowed hard. Sir, she looked so angry last night. She looked like she wanted to kill me. She won't, Ko said firmly. I won't let her. Ada nodded slowly. A small breath of relief escaped her lips. Ko continued. But there's something else we need to talk about. Ada tensed. Sir, did I do something wrong? No, he said. But something has come up. Something important. Her heart beat fast. What is it, sir? Ko studied her for a moment. He could see the innocent fear in her eyes, the way she always expected bad news. Life had taught her that good things didn't last. But this time, fate had a different plan. I found something, he said finally, about your past. Ada's breath caught. My past. Keod nodded. I asked someone to look into your family history, not to invade your privacy, but to understand what happened to you. Ada's heartbeat thundered in her ears. He continued, Ada, the man who took your father's land after his death, your uncle, did something worse than you know. Ada's eyes widened. She held her breath. What do you mean, sir? Keod leaned slightly forward, his voice calm but heavy. Your father didn't lose everything because he trusted the wrong business partner. That was only part of it. Someone close to your family, someone you trusted, helped destroy everything. Ada's throat tightened painfully. Who, sir? Keod exhaled. Your uncle lied to the entire village. He told them your father left no money, no property, no savings. Ada blinked hard. Her heart pounded. But he did. Keod continued quietly. Your father left something behind, something meant for you. Ada felt like the ground beneath her feet vanished. What did my father leave? She whispered. Keod hesitated, his voice lowering. Land. A piece of land your father bought in your name when you were young. Your uncle forged papers and took it. Ada's lips parted in shock. Tears slowly gathered in her eyes. My father bought something for me? She whispered. Yes, Keod said gently. He planned to secure your future. The tears spilled down her cheeks. She covered her mouth, her body shaking. All this time, she sobbed. All this time, they told me my father left nothing. Keod nodded softly. Because they wanted you helpless. Ada's tears fell faster. She felt the weight of years of suffering pressing against her chest. Her mind rushed with memories. Her father's tired smile, her mother's soft voice, the day the house scattered, the day relatives disappeared, the day she became nobody. Her voice cracked. Sir, what will happen now? Keod answered calmly. The land will be returned. Ada gasped. But sir, how? I have the documents, he said. I have proof, and I have people working to reclaim what belongs to you. Ada covered her face again. She cried silently at first, but then her body shook with a release she didn't know she needed. She had lived too long believing she came from nothing, too long believing she was cursed, too long believing she had no value. And now, suddenly, her world was shifting. Keod watched her with quiet concern. He waited until she calmed slightly before placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Ada, he said, your father loved you deeply. You were not abandoned by fate. Life simply became cruel. But now, everything that was stolen from you will return. Ada nodded slowly, tears still falling. Sir, thank you, she whispered. Thank you for everything. I don't know what I did to deserve this. You don't need to deserve kindness, Keod said softly. You only need to be human. Ada cried again. Later in the day, something unexpected happened. Keod told her, Ada, get ready. We're going somewhere. She panicked instantly. Sir? Where? Did I? You didn't do anything wrong, he said with a calm smile. Just get ready. Ada went inside and changed into her cleanest clothes, an oversized blue blouse and a long skirt. She brushed her hair gently and cleaned her slippers. When she came out, Keod was waiting beside his SUV. He opened the door for her, and she entered shyly, still unsure where they were going. They drove for over 30 minutes until they reached a tall building in Victoria Island. Ada felt even smaller when she stepped out. The building looked expensive, serious, intimidating. Sir, are we allowed to be here? She whispered. Yes, Keod said. Come. They entered an office. Inside were two men in suits. They greeted Keod respectfully. Sir, we have prepared the documents, one said. Documents? Ada looked around in confusion. Keod led her to a seat. Ada, this meeting is about your future. She swallowed. One of the men placed papers on the table. Miss Ada, this is a land your father purchased. The property is now being processed to return fully to you. Ada stared at the papers as if they were fire. She didn't understand some of the English, but she understood her name. She understood her father's name. She understood what this meant. Her knees grew weak. Her hand shook as she reached for the document. And my father truly bought this? Yes, Keod said softly. He secured your future long before life became hard. A tear rolled down Ada's face and dropped onto the paper. The officer smiled kindly. Miss Ada, congratulations. Ada cried openly, wiping her face with trembling fingers. Sir, I don't know what to say. Keod replied, Say thank you to your father. She nodded slowly, whispering, Thank you, Papa. After the meeting, they stepped outside. Ada held her stomach, overwhelmed. Sir, she said shakily, why are you doing all this for me? Keod stopped walking and looked at her, a long, deep look filled with something unspoken. Ada, you remind me of someone I failed in the past, he said quietly, and I won't fail again. Ada stared at him, confused. Who, sir? Someone I should have protected, he said. Someone I lost. Ada didn't know what to say. She didn't understand the pain behind his voice, but she felt it. The drive home was quiet. Ada held her bag tightly, still wiping tears from time to time. When they reached the compound, she stepped out slowly. Her entire world had changed in one day. She walked into her room and sank to her knees. She cried until her chest hurt. She cried for the father she lost. She cried for the childhood stolen from her. She cried for every night she slept on cold ground. She cried for the life she almost believed was worthless. And she cried because someone finally saw her. Keod did not disturb her. He simply watched from a distance, knowing that tears like these were healing tears. By evening, Ada stepped outside with red eyes but calmer heart. Sir, she said softly. Keod turned. Yes, Ada? She swallowed. Thank you for giving me back my father. He didn't smile. He simply said, It was already yours. I only returned it. But Ada shook her head. No, sir. You gave me more than land. You gave me hope. Keod slowly nodded. And in that moment, fate tightened the invisible thread between them, not as maid and master, not as poor and rich, but as two souls carrying pain, two souls healing quietly, two destinies leaning closer. And Ada could not know, that everything was now leading to one final turning point, a turning point that would change both their lives forever. Ada woke up the next morning feeling like a different person. Her heart was still soft in the truth she learned. The land her father's love, the years she thought she was worthless, all suddenly rearranging inside her. For the first time after many years of pain, she felt a small seed of pride growing inside her chest. It was new. It was fragile, but it was real. She walked out into the compound quietly, the sunlight warm on her skin. The flowers along the wall seemed brighter today, the air gentler, the wind calmer. She swept the compound slowly, her mind full of memories and questions. Questions about her parents, about her uncle's betrayal, about how her life would look now. She had no idea that destiny was already preparing its final surprise. When she finished sweeping, Keod stepped outside dressed in a crisp navy blue shirt. He looked serious, but not the usual work serious. This was a different kind of seriousness. A quiet one, a heavy one. Good morning, sir, Ada said. Good morning, Ada, he replied, but his voice was softer than usual. She paused. Sir, you sound different. Keod looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, We need to talk. Later, after breakfast. Ada nodded, her heart fluttering. Her mind raced with fear. What if he wanted her to leave? What if she was a burden? What if everything was ending? She couldn't eat much. Her hand shook as she held the spoon. Mama Onum noticed and patted her shoulder gently. Calm down, my daughter. He is not a wicked man. If he wants to say something, it won't be harmful. Ada nodded, but the worry didn't leave her chest. After breakfast, Keod asked her to come and sit outside under the small shade. He remained standing for a few seconds, searching for the right words. Ada, he finally said, You've been through so much in your life. Too much. Ada lowered her eyes. And I've been watching you rebuild yourself slowly, watching your courage, watching your strength, watching how you remain kind even when life has not been kind to you. Ada swallowed hard. Her fingers trembled in her lap. Then he said something she never expected. Ada, you healed something in me too. She looked up sharply. Sir, Ko sighed deeply. Years ago, someone very important to me suffered because I didn't protect her in time. It hurt me in ways I couldn't explain. I carried the guilt for years. But helping you, correcting what was done to you, it healed a wound I kept buried. Ada's eyes widened. She didn't know what to say. He sat beside her, not too close, but close enough for her to feel the sincerity in his presence. Ada, he said quietly, I didn't plan for any of this. I only wanted to help you. But somewhere along the way, you became someone I cared deeply about. Ada froze. Her heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, confused, overwhelmed, afraid to understand what he meant. Ko spoke again, his voice deep and certain. I don't see you as a burden. I don't see you as a charity case. I don't see you as someone beneath me. I see you as someone whose worth the world failed to recognize. Ada felt tears rising immediately. Ko continued, and I want to give you the life you were denied, not out of pity, but out of respect, out of admiration, out of something I can no longer pretend I don't feel. Ada held her breath. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She was afraid of this moment, afraid to dream, afraid to hope. And then, slowly, Ko reached out and took her hand. She gasped. Her entire body trembled. She almost pulled away, but something stopped her. Warmth, safety, trust. Ada, he said softly, I want to ask you something, but I won't force you. Your choice must be free. She whispered, Sir, what do you want to ask? He looked into her eyes, steady and sincere. Ada, will you allow me to take care of you? To protect you? To build a future with you? Will you allow me to love you? Ada's whole world tilted. Her heart exploded. Her knees grew weak. She pulled her hand slowly to her chest, almost unable to breathe. Sir, she whispered, her voice shaking. I'm not worthy. Ko moved closer. You are more deserving than anyone I've ever met. Ada shook her head desperately. Sir, I was a maid. I slept outside. People mocked me. I have nothing. Ko interrupted softly. You have everything that matters. A clean heart, a brave soul, a spirit that refuses to die. That is worth more than any riches. Ada burst into tears. She covered her face with her hands as sobs shook her entire body. I'm scared, she whispered through tears. I don't know how to be anything more than what I've been. He gently lifted her chin with one finger. You don't have to know, he said. You will learn, and I'll be there with you. Ada's breathing trembled. Sir, she whispered, are you sure you want me? Ko's answer came without hesitation. Yes, more than anything. Ada closed her eyes. Tears fell freely. She pressed her hand against her chest because her heart was beating too fast, too deep, too alive. Sir, she whispered softly, I don't know how to say yes, but my heart already answered. Ko smiled gently. That is enough. And there, right there under the warm Lego sun, Ada's life changed. Not because a man rescued her, not because she gained a land or escaped suffering, but because someone finally saw her, truly saw her. The poor maid who slept outside, the girl who the world humiliated, the girl who cried quietly in the dark, the girl who lost everything, was now standing on the edge of a future she never dreamed she deserved. Ko took her hand again, not with force, not with pride, but with respect. Ada, he said softly, your father left you land, but life left you something more valuable, strength. And today, I want to give you something even greater. A home, a family, a future. Ada wiped her tears gently. Sir, she whispered, I don't know how to be a wife. I don't know how to stand beside a man like you. Ko shook his head. You don't need to. Just be yourself. That is enough. Ada lowered her eyes, her tears dripping onto her skirt. Then she lifted her head slowly and nodded. Yes, sir. The words were soft, but they carried the power of destiny. Ko closed his eyes briefly and exhaled in relief. He held her hand carefully, reverently, like she was something fragile but precious. In that moment, Ada felt a new kind of warmth spread inside her chest. Not fear, not shame, not suffering, but love. A love she didn't ask for, a love she didn't chase, but a love that found her anyway. Later that evening, when the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Mama Anum saw the way Ada walked, lighter, softer, glowing from the inside. She smiled knowingly. "Ada," she whispered to herself, "your life has changed." And she was right, because before the week ended, Kale would take Ada to meet his mother. Before the month ended, Ada's land would officially bear her name again. Before the year ended, Ada, the poor maid who slept outside, would stand before the world wearing a wedding ring she never thought she would touch in her lifetime. Destiny was no longer whispering. It was shouting, and Ada was finally ready to walk into it.